Hey, this is Eric, and in this video we are doing a deep dive into Google Jamboard. We'll take a look at how to use Jamboard, as well as explore templates, ideas, and examples for how it can be used in schools for teaching and learning. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping here. First of all, I want to make sure you all can get to the resources for this session. You see there's a bit.ly link here at the top, bit.ly/Kurtz-Jamboard. That link will get you to a Google document that has all of the resources we're going to be taking a look at, and probably a little bit more as well. That document looks like this. So if you're winding up in a place like that, you're in the right spot. This document has all of the things we're going to be working through pretty much in the same order here, including any relevant links so that you can try these things out. And I do update this document from time to time, so you can bookmark this or add it to your drive, or just keep track of that bit.ly link to get back to that anytime you need to in the future. And so the plan for this session is to start off with a quick introduction about what is Jamboard, make sure everybody is on the same page there. Run through the basic use and features of it. Do just a quick moment to explain the difference between the web version and the mobile version of Jamboard. And then spend a good chunk of time just diving into some templates and ideas and examples. Once we have a good feel for what Jamboard is, we'll look at, okay, so what can we do with it? And throughout that, touching on a couple other specifics related to making the most out of Jamboard. So that is the plan. As a reminder to you, if you haven't pulled it up yet, you can get to the resource document at bit.ly/Kurtz-Jamboard to play along and try out all the things that we're going to be looking at here today. All right, so let's get on into this. So first thing, what is Jamboard? What is this tool that we're talking about here? So this is a tool from Google that is their collaborative, interactive, digital whiteboard tool. Probably got familiar with this a little bit more during the pandemic. I think folks are looking for tools to replace a digital whiteboard or to replace a whiteboard, and there were a lot of those tools out there. Jamboard was one of them that I think got a lot of attention during that time, so you may have some familiarity with it. It does have a lot of cool tools that kind of are meant to replicate a whiteboard. So there's a drawing tool with different types of pens and an eraser and sticky notes, which is neat. You can stick those right on the Jamboard. You can add images and shapes and text and change the background and so forth. We'll look at all of that in more detail. There is a web version and a mobile version. We'll explain the differences between those. And within any one jam, as we call it, so an individual jam, the file that gets created through Jamboard, you can have up to 20 frames. So kind of picture like 20 whiteboards all together that you can scroll through within one particular jam. Just for clarification, there is actually a physical whiteboard from Google that they also call a Jamboard. That is not what we're talking about in this particular session, although that's really awesome. It's an interactive whiteboard, like a physical one, that runs the Jamboard software, but they also call the physical board a Jamboard. You do not need that to be able to use the Jamboard program. You can use the Jamboard program on a Mac, on a PC, on a Chromebook, on an iPad, on a Android device. You can use it on any device. You don't have to have the board itself, although those are pretty nice. Just wanted to clarify that. Well, let's get into using Jamboard now that we have a little bit of an idea of what this thing is all about. And the first thing is, well, how do you make a new jam? Well, there's, with Google, there's always like 5 ways to do any one thing. So you can do this a couple of ways. You can go to jamboard.google.com. I think I've got that open here on another screen. There we go. And that's where you'll see all of your existing jams you've made. And in the bottom, there's a big plus button you can click on to create a new jam. You can also do this from your Google Drive. If you click on the New button in Google Drive and then click More, you'll see Jamboard right there in Google Drive. So you can make a jam right from your drive. There is a shortcut. A lot of the Google tools have those. Jam.new is the shortcut for creating a new Jamboard, just like docs.new or slides.new. And of course, if you're a waffle button person, if you use the little waffle button up in the top right-hand corner of a new screen, you'll also see Jamboard shows up in the list of all of those tools. That's another way to get into it. For today, though, I'm just going to go with the first one here over here at jamboard.google.com. I'm going to click on the New button in the bottom right-hand corner, and there we go. That will create a new jam for me. And there it is. Awesome. All right, so let's take a little look around what we're going to see. Down the left-hand side, we'll get a toolbar, and we'll go into some more detail on that. And of course, the bulk of the screen is your whiteboard frame that you're working on. And across the top, there's some menus. We'll get into these menus here across the top. But there's also an option to add more frames. You start with one frame, but then you can add more of them as you go. So you can see here, there's my toolbar, my whiteboard, my frames, and my menus here inside of the Jamboard. Let's start by talking about that toolbar. A lot of great tools on there. The drawing tool, eraser, selection, sticky notes, image, shape, text box, and laser pointer. We'll just poke a stick at each of those real quick just to show the idea behind these. So the first button over there is the pen tool. And there's a couple of different options. There's just a regular pen, and you can choose different colors for that. And you can use that to easily write on your jam. But there's also a marker. Now the marker is going to be a little bit of different, little thicker type of a drawing tool. There's also the highlighter. Now the highlighter is thick as well, but it also is sort of semi-transparent. So if there's something behind it, you can kind of see through it. And then there's also a paintbrush here as well. So that one definitely very transparent there as I'm drawing with it in a broader stroke. So you can kind of decide which tool you want to use based upon your need, whether you're trying to handwrite something or draw a diagram, etc. So those are the drawing tools that are going to show up here. For what it's worth, be aware drawing tools always show up on top of things. So if we add other things later, anytime you're drawing, Jamboard assumes you want the drawing on top of the other things. So just be aware of that. Next up is an eraser, which understandably we could use to erase things if we needed to erase something on the board. Next up is just our selection tool. If we have something that we can select and move around, that will let us do that. Next, we got our sticky note tool, and this one's pretty cool. So you click on the sticky note tool, and it opens up this little sticky note thing where I'll just put in, some sample text here. And then you can choose the color. It doesn't have to be a yellow sticky note. It can be any color you want. And then when you click save, it'll drop that sticky note on there. And so I could do, another note. And we could pick a different color for this one. And you get the idea. Eventually, if I hit cancel, it'll close out of that. And again, there you can see how that my drawings, you can see when I use the pen tool, those are still on top of the sticky notes. So drawings always come to the top whenever you're using the drawing tool. The sticky notes, of course, I can move around. Oops, didn't mean to redo that. Here we go. You can move them around anywhere you want on the board. And of course, you can make them bigger if you want them bigger, and you can rotate them, grab the little rotate button here. If you need to, of course, you can, duplicate or delete them or edit them or move them forwards and backwards in front of other sticky notes, for example. But really quick and easy to generate these and drop them onto your Jamboard. Next down on the toolbar is the Add Image button. A lot of ways you can put an image onto your whiteboard. You can upload it from your computer, put in a link, use your camera to take a picture, do a Google image search, grab things from your drive, grab things from your Google Photos. I'll just do a Google image search. Let's say it's a science class and we're learning about insects and the different parts of an insect's body. So I could come in here and find a picture of a bug. Really probably doesn't matter which one we go with here. We'll just grab this guy. He looks good, and we'll insert that insect. And now that we've got that insect in there, of course, we could use some of our other tools, and we could, like, for example, start, annotating on it. So maybe I'd come up here and I'll use, we'll use the marker and we'll use the red, and, maybe I'm going to indicate the different parts of the insect's body, that the head, the abdomen, the thorax, and the abdomen. And so maybe now we're going to start labeling each of these parts. And so I could very easily drop an image right into my jam, and then we could start using sticky notes or writing on there to label the parts of our insect. All right. Next up, we've got a shape tool. This one's pretty basic. It's just a couple of basic shapes. So not like what you would see in like slides or drawings, which has way more shapes. Just a couple of quick basic shapes if you did need to drop some shapes onto your Jamboard. Then there's a text box option. If you don't want to put something inside just a sticky note, but you do want text on your screen, the text box option allows us to do that. So there's some text. And of course, you can put a lot of text in there and make the text box bigger. And if you want to have a big portion of text somewhere on your screen, or it could just be that you're using it to label things like we'd mentioned, really up to you. And there is, of course, a few options. If you click on the text box, you can come up here to the top, and you've got a few options like the text color, the alignment, and how big the text is. So you can adjust the size of the text as well. And then lastly, on that toolbar, we do have a laser pointer. And what this does is it allows you to be able to bring attention to something, but then it disappears. So it's just like a temporary, hey, take a look at this up here, and then it goes away. So that's your laser pointer tool, which is pretty nifty there as well. All right, so that's a quick overview of some of the basic tools that you're going to have there on the toolbar. As we mentioned, though, we also can add frames if we want to have more frames than just the one that this comes with. We can have up to 20 frames in a jam. You can use the arrow keys to move through those, and you can use the arrow keys to add more frames as well. As you do add more frames, then if you click on that frames button, it'll show you a little thumbnail of your frames. And again, you can very easily add more in between them, or you can duplicate or delete them as need be. So at the moment, I only have one frame, but if I hit this arrow to the right, that'll create a second frame and then a third frame. You get the idea. And if I click on the frames button, I can see each of those frames, and I can go in and select those as need be. All right. Other things, did mention about some of the buttons across the top. We do have some menu options at the top of the Jamboard. One of them is the ability to change your background, which can be really helpful. There's a little background button up there, and you can choose from like dots or lines or graph paper or colored images, or you can even upload your own image as well. So for example, here, if I come up and I click on set background, I could say, hey, let's go with dots or lines, or make this into graph paper if that made sense for a particular situation, or change the overall color. Or like we said, if I wanted to, I'll just go to a new frame over here. We could actually upload our own image. Now this is really nice. So if you come here to set background and you use the image button with the little plus on it to upload your own image, you can set the background of the jam. And this is useful if you're trying to do an activity where you want the students maybe to fill out a graphic organizer, for example, and you want them to be able to drop, sticky notes or images or move objects around on the jam. But you don't want them to be able to change the background. You want to have, a graphic organizer or some sort of design in the background that you want to be locked there. You want it to stay in place. And so that would be the idea, is we could set the background. So for example, here's a Google drawing I have. And you don't have to use Google Drawings. You could use Google Slides, Google Drawings. You could use any graphic program, but since we're staying in the Google ecosystem at the moment, I figured I would just use a quick Google drawing here. So this is a Google drawing that I made a Frayer model on just by using the regular insert shape option. I just inserted a bunch of shapes here, and I built this Frayer model here. And let's say I want that to be the background of my Jamboard. That's great. So you can build something in slides or drawings or whatever tool that you want to. And then, of course, I could download that. So if I come here and I download that as like a PNG, I'm going to now have an image of that Well, what I can do is I can come back over to my Jamboard and I can say, let's set the background, let's upload that picture. So if I go to upload that picture, of course I could, I don't have to upload it. I could even search for, my guess is if I did an image search, I don't know, if I search for like a Freyer model, I may be able to find, well, didn't find a good one in that case, but I might be able to even, find some images out there that I could use. In this case, I'm going to upload the one I created. So I'm just going to click on Browse, and it should be in my downloads. And there it is, yeah. And so give that a moment to upload it, and boom. And so now that's part of the background. So we can't actually move that around. We'd have to go in and clear that out and pick a new background to get rid of that. But what that would allow us to do now is the students would be able to, drop sticky notes on it, or, handwrite on it, or add a text box on it, or add images on top of it, any of those, and they could start filling this out, but they're not actually going to be able to change the background itself. So that's a really nice, helpful feature in a Jamboard. All right, last couple of things as far as the big picture overview of how it works. Up in the top right-hand corner, you've got your little 3 dots button where you've got extra menu options. There's a bunch of stuff in there, but there's a couple of things that I'll draw attention to. One of the key things would be, what if you want to download what you've created in a Jamboard into some other format? There's 2 main download options up in that top right-hand corner there. One is download as a PDF. That downloads the entire Jamboard, like all of the frames, so all up to 20 frames as a PDF. If you only wanted to download the one frame you're currently working on, you could say save frame as image, and it would just download the one frame itself. Other things worth noting up here, the make a copy option. I don't have that listed in the bullet points here, but I will mention that. That's great when you're using somebody else's template. So if somebody has made a Jamboard and they have shared it as view only, and so you can take a look at it, but you can't make changes to it, well, you could hit the 3 dots and make your own copy of that. And then, hey, now you've got your own copy of that Jamboard, and you could start using it for yourself or with your students. So later on, when we talk about templates, that's really helpful if somebody has not forced a copy, if they've just let you do a view only look at the Jamboard, you can make your own copy. This is also where to go to see the version history of a jam, to see who has made changes to the jam. And again, all that stuff is just up here in that top right-hand corner. So if I come up here and I click on the More Actions button, there's the download as PDF, save the frame, make a copy, see the version history, and so forth. All right, good stuff. So I think that gets us through the oh, no, sorry, one more thing. I had one more on there, which was sharing. I guess probably goes without saying, but I should mention it real quickly, is that a Jamboard shares just like any Google file. So don't feel that it's something unusual. If you're used to sharing a document or a slideshow, same thing. You're just going to click the share button, and you can put in specific people, or you can share it as a link, or you can push it out through Google Classroom. If you're in Google Classroom and you are used to sharing documents and saying, hey, let's make a copy for each student. Just like you can make a copy of a document, same thing. In Google Classroom, you can attach a Jamboard file and say, make a copy for each student, and boom, 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 everybody gets their own copy of that Jamboard. So yeah, again, nothing unusual about that. Just click the share button to share with specific people, or to share as a link, or attach it in Google Classroom to share it out as well. All right, I do want to clarify real quick, though, a little bit of a difference, and that is the Jamboard mobile app versus the Jamboard web tool. What we've been using so far, this is the web version. It's at jamboard.google.com. So if I'm on a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook, this is the normal version of Jamboard I'm going to see. Turns out, though, Jamboard has a mobile version, so that means it would run on like a phone or a tablet, but it also means it would run on a Chromebook, because Chromebooks do both. That's one of the beauties of Chromebooks, is a Chromebook can run the web version of things, but Chromebooks also run Android apps. Now, you may have to turn that feature on, so talk to your tech folks about that, but by default, Chromebooks have the ability, just, it needs to be turned on, the ability to run mobile apps, Android apps. And so you can run on a Chromebook either the web version of Jamboard or the mobile version, or both. And so I'm going to demonstrate that for you here in just a second. But the reason that it's worth mentioning is it turns out the mobile version, it actually has extra features that the web version doesn't have. And that's what's really, really cool about this, is that the mobile version allows you to do some other cool things. And some of them that we're going to demonstrate here real quick are what they call like assistive technology tools here. There's handwriting recognition, shape recognition, and auto draw that are built into the mobile version. Now, maybe someday they'll add those to the web version, but for right now, if you want to take advantage of some of those, that's not going to show up on the web version. You're going to have to be using the mobile version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to my Chromebook. So this is my Chromebook sitting here next to me. I've got it attached through Chrome Remote Desktop. That way I don't have to unplug and replug and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to move it over here to the side. I know you guys can't see that, but I'm putting the Chromebook where I can reach it a little bit easier here. But I've connected my Chromebook through Chrome Remote Desktop, so you can see it here in the recording. And if I'm on my Chromebook and I go down here to the bottom left corner, so come down here and I click on my little launcher. So here's my launcher with all of my different apps. What I want to show for you guys is that I have 2 different versions of Jamboard showing up here. I got this Jamboard and that Jamboard. I know they don't look different, but they actually are. One of them is for the web version. One of these icons is going to take me to the jamboard.google.com, and the other, it's going to launch the Android version of Jamboard. I think the first one's the web one. We'll click it and see real quick. Yep. The first one's the web one. So the first one there, that opens up just the regular old web version of Jamboard. So there's all my jams in there. But if I go down and I click on the second Jamboard icon that I have here, and again, I got that because I used the Android app. So I went to the Play Store, the Google Play Store. I've got the Play Store icon here that allowed me to install the Android version. So if I click on that one, it's actually opening up the Android version of Jamboard. It looks pretty similar at the moment. I come here, I can click on the plus button and I can create a new jam. But you're going to notice the layout looks a little bit different, especially the toolbar over here. So when I come over to the toolbar, you get a couple of different things, like there's an image library, there's stickers, so there's some other cool things too. But remember I talked about those assistive drawing tools. So if I come up here to the drawing button, I've got my normal drawing tools, but then I've got assistive drawing tools. And those include handwriting recognition, shape recognition, and auto draw. I'm just going to show you real quick the idea behind them. So let's pick the handwriting recognition. The idea behind that is, with this turned on, I should be able to just write on here. So we'll try it real quick. We'll just do testing. If I write the word testing, hopefully it'll figure out, and it did. Look at that. That's pretty good. And so it figures out, what it is that I'm handwriting, and it turns it into typed text. So if you've got that turned on, if you have that feature turned on here, and I'll go ahead and show you that again. There we go. If I have that turned on under assistive drawing tools, then it will be in that mode. Otherwise, it's just going to let me, handwrite normally. There's also smart shapes. And so what this means is, like, maybe I'm not the best at drawing circles, but if I kind of draw a circle there, it'll figure out that was an oval, or if I do a triangle, there's a triangle, or a square, there's a square. And so it changes those for me. And then, of course, there's auto draw, which is everybody's favorite. Auto draw basically is, if I want to draw a picture of something, so I'll come up here and I'll try to draw a dog. So we'll put a tail on him, and we'll give him some legs here, and we'll give him his head and his ear and his eye and his mouth. As I'm doing that, at the bottom, Google's trying to guess what I was drawing, and I can click on one of the options, say, yep, I think this dog down here is what I was trying to draw. I can click on that, and it will replace my drawing. with a better version of it. And of course, I can make that bigger, move that around. And so this is a really nice way to be able to help students if they're creating sketch notes or an infographic. So just be aware, the mobile version of Jamboard is awesome. It's a really neat thing. And if you got a Chromebook, you can run them both. I mean, you can run them both at the same time. I mean, I literally am right now. I've got the mobile version here, and then I've got the web version there, and you can be running both of them. You could have the same one open actually in both of them. Let's see. It should be here now. There we go. So, here I'm in the web version of it, and here I'm in the Android version of it. I'm editing the exact same Jam file in both of them at the same time. It may take it a little bit of time for it to update and reflect the change I made in the one. But so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move this back out of my way now, and make sure I got to find my right mouse now. I got a mouse for both of these. So here we go. Awesome. Okay, and we'll pop on back over to our slideshow now. We'll probably stay in the web version for the rest of the time, but I just wanted to show that off. That definitely take advantage of the mobile version if you're able to do so. Okay, so at this point, real quick, just a quick segue here. This might be a good time to ask, okay, well, this is cool. I think we've got a good understanding of Jamboard now. We know what it does. We have the main features. We have the main ideas. I could see a logical question being, so why would I use that versus slides or drawings? Because there's definitely some overlap there. And you are right. There are things that are similar. Google Slides and Google Drawings, if I had Google Drawings open earlier, it's got a shape menu. I can add shapes, and I can add a text box in there, and I can insert images, and it's sort of like a canvas, kind of like Jamboard is, So, I mean, the short answer to this is, absolutely, they're all three good tools. And so Jamboard, Slides, Drawings, you got to kind of pick the one that makes sense for you, the one you're comfortable with. But for what it's worth, a couple of little differences that we could mention. When I might choose Jamboard over Drawings or Slides would be, for example, if I want to use the drawing tools that Jamboard has. That pen, the marker, the highlighter, the paintbrush, those are very intuitive. You can just easily handwrite or draw with those. And Slides and Drawings has a scribble tool, but it's not really the same. So if you're wanting to just like, work out a math problem, if you just want to write on it, I think Jamboard, it's just more natural and intuitive with that. I love the sticky notes. Those really don't exist in the others. Those quick background templates where I can just go in and very quickly change the background to some of these preset ones. That's nice. If you're on mobile, of course, those assistive drawing tools, those are awesome. And I would just say the overall simplicity and ease of use. It's a simple tool, so it doesn't have all the other features that you might see with drawings and slides, and so sometimes that's beneficial. Jen Hall did a nice Venn diagram, and so you can check that out on the slideshow as well, where she took slides and drawings and Jamboard and tried to indicate some of the things where they're similar and some of the things where they are different. Well, with that all in mind, let's get into some practical applications now. So let's talk about what we could use this for. We've seen all the tools. We've seen how it works. Well, what are we going to do with it? So we're going to talk about templates, ideas, and examples. And I've got a whole bunch of them in the agenda document. Now, remember, that agenda document is at bit.ly/Kurtz-Jamboard. So up until now, probably haven't been a lot of links in here, a couple of links here and there, mostly just information in there. But when you get down to this section, I think it's page 4, that's where I've got a list of Jamboard templates, ideas, and examples. So I would encourage you, this is definitely a spot where you probably do want to click on some of these links, because this is going to get you to some pretty nice resources here. And we're going to look at a few of these, not all of them, but we'll definitely look at a few of them here. So within this section, you'll see things such as a Google Drive folder that I have put together that has just collections of templates that I've come across over time. So if you do click on that link, that'll open up a Google Drive folder, and inside of there are subfolders that are from other people. So these are not ones I have created. These are folders that I have found over time that people have been very kind and generous to share. And so you can open up any of these subfolders and you will find so many ones in there. I don't know. I'll just click on one as an example here. I'm not even sure, whose this one was, but I just opened this one up as an example so we'd have something to see. What I would encourage you is if you do go this route and you use my little link here to open up my Drive folder, I would encourage you to consider switching the view in Drive from list view to grid view if you don't have it in grid view. If you come up here and switch it into grid view, you're going to actually get thumbnail previews of them rather than list view where you just get the names. I think that might be a lot easier to browse through the Jamboard templates. That way you're actually seeing a quick, I may not tell you everything about the template, but at least you'll get a little bit of an idea of, oh, this is the story mountain. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think I do want to open up that one. So that's a nice collection of templates there. I also have a link to a wonderful collection of templates from TCEA. So TCEA put together, and this is an ongoing thing that they're doing, wonderful collection of over 1,300 Jamboard templates. So if you follow this Google Docs link here, that'll take you out to their to that document from TCEA, and you're allowed to make a copy of it. You can just click File, make a copy, and you can get your own copy if you want. Oh, they're up to over 1,400 now. I have to keep changing my number. It was 12, then 1,300, now it's 1,400. And this is a really big document. Oh my gosh, it's 81 pages long. Holy cow. This is so big. So it's an 81-page document of Jamboard templates. And I would encourage you to use the outline button over on the left. If you click the outline button on the left, it'll show you all the different headers that they've added in, and that can help you jump more quickly. So you'll see they've got Jamboard templates that have been arranged by, subject area like ELA, math, but also, months and holidays, and so forth. So you could use that and say, oh, I'm a math teacher and I teach 7th grade math. If you click there, it's going to jump you to that spot so you're closer to the area that you were looking for. Now, again, with all of these, in each case, you're going to click on these. Some of them are going to be view only, where you're going to view it, and then you could make a copy of it, or they might have a make a copy link where it's going to force the copy. So again, if I were just to come and click on one of these that says view, it's going to open that template up. In this case, it's view only, so I'm just viewing it. I'm not actually able to change it at the moment, but I could click through it and see all the directions and see if, is this one that I want to use or not? And if I decide that I do like it and that I do want to use it, that's when you hit the 3 dots in the top right and you say make a copy, and then you get your own copy of it. So just be aware that's how most of those are going to work. Beyond that, there's a nice Wakelet collection, and there's some great Facebook groups. If you do use Facebook, there's some active Jamboard groups on Facebook. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to open up 3 of these. And these are ones that I put together that they're not meant to be like exemplary. They're not like the most amazing thing. It's just more just to show you a variety of stuff. So I'm going to open up Eric's sample Jamboard activities, Eric's sample math activities, and Eric's rainbow scratch-off templates. So I'm just going to use those real quick just to kind of give you some ideas. And I think I already have them open here. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So this one here, this is the one that's called Eric's sample Jamboard activities. And again, just simple, just wanted to give you some ideas of, okay, so here's some stuff I've seen people do with Jamboard. So let's start moving through this one here. So, for example, a possible use of Jamboard would be to have students putting items into categories. In this case, themselves. And I use the a bit of a meta question here. How familiar are you with Jamboard? But this could, of course, be any kind of question that you want to be asking the students. It could be like a check-in. How are you feeling today? Kind of thing. Or it could be organizing information into different categories. Well, we could, of course, use any of these tools here, but like a sticky note would work great. I could just, say, okay, sticky note, put my name in there, hit save, and now I could take my name and decide, okay, well, where am I at? I've never heard of Jamboard. I've used it a few times. I'm proficient. Or I hope I can put it in. I could teach this session because I am teaching it right now. So I hope that's accurate. But then all the students, if this was a collaborative Jamboard, if we shared this as editable among the class, everybody could be inside of there together, dropping in their sticky notes and doing their check-in. Another use would be using sticky notes for spelling words. In this case, let's say we're working on consonant, vowel, consonant patterns, and we've got the letter A for the vowel that we're working on. We could grab sticky notes of letters and we could see what words we could spell with it. Now, this also works great if you have like a touch-sensitive board in your classroom and you've got your projector and you're projecting it onto your interactive whiteboard. The students could just come up and using their fingers, they could just drag these around right there on your whiteboard, but they could also be doing it individually on their devices. Other ideas, same thing here, just maybe a little bit more sophisticated. Here we're trying to drag these around and make an actual sentence out of it. So they love to eat ice cream. There we go. Awesome. Next up, that's another drag and drop one. We're trying to label the parts of our plant cell there. Now this next one takes advantage of the highlighter tool. And so the idea behind this one is we give the students some text and we want them to highlight the verbs yellow, the nouns blue, and the adjectives red. So if I come here to the pencil or the pen tool, the drawing tool, instead of using the pen, I'd actually go over to the highlighter, which is the third one over. And if I pick like the yellowish color, that would be for verbs. So it would be things like, went or followed or broke. You get the idea. If I use blue, that's for nouns, so lamb and child and so forth. So that's a neat option to use that. A little bit fancier example here. We're using the highlighter to highlight the subordinating conjunctions and then using the pen tool to underline the dependent clauses in the following sentences. So, you can definitely scale this up. Next up, a quick math example. In this one, we're talking about estimating the area of an irregular shape. And so if I just use the regular drawing, just a pen here, and I just draw some, irregular shape, the idea would be after drawing that, I would come over here and I would count up, okay, how many whole squares fit inside of here? And I could even, click on them if I wanted to. I could put a little hash mark inside of each one of them as I go. I won't, I'll obviously do that right now. But let's say, I don't know, maybe there's, 60 whole squares in there. And then I would do partial squares. So anywhere that, well, it kind of touched that one, it kind of touched that one, and I would use a different color. I'd switch over to a different color so that okay, the red ones are, the partials or whatever. And, again, I have no idea how many there are here. Let's just say, there were, 40, partials going around there. And then we'd say, well, okay, so divide that by 2, and that's, worth, about 20 whole squares. And then you could say altogether, we've got 80 square units or whatever. So again, just an example of taking advantage of the cool backgrounds and the drawing tools there. Here's one where we're just voting on items with sticky notes. Here's the Frayer model we looked at earlier, where the students could now go in and they could use a text box to put in what their topic is. So right here, what is their topic, and then they could use images. They could use text boxes, sticky notes to define the item, facts, characteristics, examples, non-examples. So fill out our Frayer model. And then here's one where we're given an image and you're supposed to identify important contributions of Greek society from the image below. So again, using annotation tools, you use the, circle things, draw arrows, use sticky notes, and explain what different items are shown in that image. The next one I had here was my sample math activities. So a lot of these I used Equatio, and I'll mention that real quick here. But I used Equatio And that's a free extension for teachers to use that allows you to easily be able to add math content to docs and slides and forms and Jamboard. And so I use Jamboard plus Equatio to do some math examples here. So it could be something as simple as, dragging fractions to match, the different the representations with the fractions, and all of these were all created with Equatio. It was very easy to add those in. I'll show you that real quick. Or it could be, finding the different representations this way, where I'm saying, okay, these two are the same. It's a circle and a bar representation, but they represent the same fraction. Or dragging times to show the different times for the clocks. Or in this case, we're using the pen tool and we're drawing in the hand. So we say, well, what if it's an hour and 45 minutes, later? What time would that be? Oh, okay. And so, we got to come in here and we have to draw in the hands on the clock. Or maybe we're trying to measure angles. So here's a protractor from Equatio that I could drop down here and say, well, that looks like it's about, 75 degrees. And you could write in your own answer. And then if you drag the sticky note out of the way, it's got the answer behind it. Here's one with plotting points. You put in the numbers you want and then drag the point to the spot where you want it to go. And here we're matching equations, quadratic equations with their graphs. And then the last one that I had here is just kind of a fun one, but it's really neat. It's a neat twist on this, and that's my rainbow scratch-off templates. So if you follow this link, it'll take you out to a blog post where you can see how these work, and I got 12 different templates. You can click on any one of these to get a copy of them. But what I did was I put a rainbow picture as the background of the Jamboard frame, and then I covered it. I drew on top of it with the white marker, so the whole thing is covered. And so what you end up getting, here's one I made a copy of. So here's the template, and so this page looks blank, but it's not. There's actually a picture in the background. I did the set background and I uploaded a rainbow image. And then what I did was I used the marker, but I used white, and I literally just drew over the entire thing. So it took a long time. But what you're going to do is, this is like those old, I don't know if you've ever did that before, those craft things where you've got, like, I think they were usually black, but it's like you would take a scratchy, like a pencil type thing, and you would scratch on the page and it would scratch off the black covering, and then you'd have a rainbow design underneath. Well, that's kind of what this is. So what you're going to do is, instead of using the drawing tool, you're actually going to use the eraser tool. So the student will come here and they'll grab the eraser tool. And with the eraser tool, if I start erasing on this, it erases the top layer, and I can see the rainbow underneath there. And so as I come in here, I can start, drawing on this, and little by little erasing, whatever is on top, and seeing what is behind. Now that could just be fun. That could just be a fun way for students to practice, drawing or writing on there. Having said that, though, what you could do is you could come in here and you can make a copy of one of these, and you could change the background image. It doesn't have to be the rainbow image that I put in. You could come in here and just take advantage of the fact that I drew on top of this with all of this white here. And what you could do is you could click Set Background, and then you could choose your own image. You could say, hey, I'm going to search for something. I'm going to search for a picture of a dog. Obviously, pick something subject related, but we'll just do this to keep it simple here. And what I could do is I could pick this picture of a dog, and now that's become the background. Well, now what we could do is we could start using the eraser, and we could start, erasing portions of the page and saying, okay, anybody want to guess? We could start making predictions, what might be behind, this. And as we, erase different parts, maybe the students start making, more and more guesses as we go. And eventually, we start to get to a spot where, we can make a guess about, what we think this is, in the background here. So that could be a neat twist. All right, well, we're getting really close to the end of our time here. And I do have just a couple other little things that I wanted to mention. I'll just mention these rather than demonstrate them. Just be aware Jamboard is integrated into Google Meet, so if you ever are in a Google Meet, you can click on the little 3 dots button in Meet and go up to the whiteboard option, and it will create a jam for you. When it does that, you can either create a brand new one or grab one from your drive, and it'll ask you if you want to share it with the people that are in the Meet with you. And so if you want to do a quick whiteboard activity with people in a Google Meet, this is an easy way to do that. It drops the link right there into the chat for them. I also mentioned about creating backgrounds for Jamboard earlier. Again, certainly slides or drawings are great ways to do that. I would just encourage you to set the width and height to 1920 by 1080 pixels. That's what the Jamboard's looking for. You can use other sizes, but if you want it to fit nicely, and then you can download as a PNG image what you create and set those as your backgrounds. And then I did mention about Equatio with Jamboard, so I just want to clarify that with you. So Equatio is a free tool, free for educators, and it allows you to, I'll jump over here. It allows you to have a toolbar that appears at the bottom of your Jamboard, and it gives you all of these really cool tools down here, like the ability to type in an equation, or to handwrite an equation, or to make a graph, or to use that math space option, which is where you can go in and create those fractions and protractors and things like that. And basically what ends up happening is when you're all done, you just click the little insert button and it lets you copy it as an image, and then you can paste it right into the jam. I do have in the agenda document a little bit more detail on that one. That's at the very bottom of the agenda document. I do have a blog post that I did on that, and a YouTube video. And so if you want to check out that blog post and YouTube video, it goes into a lot more details about how to do that. Well, we are, I believe, at the very end of our time here. So I do want to say, first of all, thank you so very much for taking the time to learn with me here today about Jamboard. I want to remind you that everything we saw here can be accessed at bit.ly/Kurtz-Jamboard. That'll always get you back to this Google document here, which again I do update from time to time, and it's a good resource to follow along with for this session, but also to learn more. I would definitely encourage, especially in this section on templates, dive into those and see all the amazing templates that people have shared. Thank you guys so very much again for learning with me here today about Jamboard for teaching and learning. And for all the rest of my educational technology resources, be sure to visit my site at controlaltachieve.com. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, sign up for my email newsletter, and check out my book, Control Alt Achieve, Rebooting Your Classroom with Creative Google Projects. Thanks so much, and take care.